Oh, what a game. I'll wait a couple seconds here before we get going. Get all my stats ready for this game or for this video. But anyway, there is your 2021 SEC title game going in favor of Alabama. 41-24, exactly the same score as what it was last year. Man, what a game. How'd it start? Well, Georgia was dominating the first quarter. Goes up 3-0. Looks like they're going to score a touchdown to end the first quarter. They had over 100 yards on Bama in the first quarter. Stetson Bennett was 8 of 10 for 126 yards in the first quarter. And after that, it was all Alabama. Alabama completely dominated on the line of scrimmage, especially in the second quarter. Man, the second quarter was a disaster for UGA, getting outscored 24-7 in the second quarter. Bryce Young, give this guy a lot of credit. We'll talk more about him in a second, but man, he is your Heisman Trophy winner, like it or not. That is pretty obvious. I don't know what else there's to say with that, but what a game he had. I have his stats written down. I'll talk about that. But continuing with how the game went, second quarter, Georgia's offense does score 7 points, but it was really a continuation from the first quarter. Could not get anything going after that drive. Again, that was continuing into the second quarter. They had 3 more drives, 3 punts. Bama had 4 drives, all scoring points. They scored 24 points in the first half. Going up 24-17 at the half, come out in the third quarter. Georgia's defense and really in the second half played a lot better. They were getting pressure on Bryce Young, could not get a sack though. I don't think Georgia recorded any sacks in this game. They came out, gave up a touchdown, but ever since that, Georgia's defense played really, really well. They gave up over 380 yards in the first half. Alabama finished with about 540. I mean, it is what it is. Defensively, you lost this game in the second quarter. Other than that, defense was fine. Stetson Bennett, it is what it is. I have his stats listed scrolling across the screen right now. He went 29 of 48, 340 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's just not going to cut it. I'd even list his rushing stats. His rushing stats in this game were 7 carries for 11 yards. You got to take in account with all these sacks and loss of yardage from the sacks. But Georgia's rush game was non-existent for the most part. Kenny McIntosh was really the brightest spot, but he only had 32 yards on 4 carries. Georgia had 30 carries for 109 yards. That average of 3.6 yards per carry. Alabama actually edged out Georgia in the run game. And give a lot of credit to Alabama's offensive line. Coming into this game, they had a lot of question marks, especially on the left side. But, man, they played a lot better, especially from the second quarter on. Bryce Young was getting pressured in the second half. He threw a lot more incompletions, obviously, than the first half, but it's just Georgia's offense in the second half just wasn't going to cut it. Stetson Bennett threw 2 terrible interceptions. First one, you can make an argument on who it was. Brock Bowers was covered. That was just Stetson Bennett panicking. I really wish we could have that back because we'd get that 3 points at least. It'll be 31-20 at that point in time. But then he throws that pick 6, and that was just terrible. A complete misread on the defense. And really, it starts on the pre-snap. Stetson Bennett has shown that he just isn't good enough pre-snap ability. It's just not there. It is what it is. But game 41-24, and let's get into Alabama's stats offensively, which were really, really good. They had 537 yards of total offense, 421 yards passing from Bryce Young, 116 yards rushing. 116 yards rushing is nothing, but when you compare it to what UGA has done this year, that's quite a bit. Brian Robinson, 16 carries, 55 yards. That's not, a lot, but it was Bryce Young, man. Bryce Young was making plays. Bryce Young looked like the best player in college football today. He was the best player on the field. His offensive line gave him a lot of help, especially in the first half. but Bryce Young looked unstoppable. Jamison Williams had 7 catches, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns. John Mechie, before he got hurt, unfortunately, hopefully he'll be okay, but he missed the second half. He had six catches for 97 yards and a touchdown. Shout out to Slade Bolden. He had a really good game, 5 catches for 54 yards. But, man, Alabama's offensive line held up really well. They won majority of the battles in the trenches. Their defensive line played really well. Georgia just did not look like the same Georgia team that we've seen all year. But, hey, give Alabama a lot of credit. This is Nick Saban for you. He was an underdog in this game, and he came out and dominated for the most part. But offensively was another issue, and it really, really blows looking how this team from top to bottom is one of the most talented teams in the country, if not the most talented team in the country, except for starting quarterback. But it is what it is. Hopefully Georgia still makes it to the playoffs. We'll talk about that later. I'll get to some of these comments real quick, but it is what it is. Georgia's defense exposed. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say they got truly exposed, but it is what it is. That second quarter was really the game for you. But anyway, so getting blown out by Michigan or Notre Dame, pick your poison. That's just not going to happen. I'm just telling you that right now. Alabama is probably the best team in the country, especially for that doesn't even. Auburn's probably the 4th or 5th best team Bama has played this year. But anyway, what's up, Noah? Roll Tide. Shout out to the Tide. Completely dominated this game. What's up, Chris? What's up, Noah? Roll Tide. Congratulations, Travis. Alabama improves to 12-1. SEC champs. But anyway, let's get to this question real quick. Is Georgia a top 4 team? Yes, you better believe it. Georgia had its worst game of the year. Look at the other 12 games this year for Georgia. They've completely dominated every team. This was their one hiccup. Every team has a hiccup or two in the season, but it is what it is. But, yeah, Georgia is a top 4 team. Are they going to make it to the playoffs? More than likely, but I honestly believe the committee's probably going to put Georgia below Cincinnati. They love Cincinnati. Cincinnati is 13-0, the only 13-0 team in the country. But it is what it is. Exposed, man. Your backfield got blown out. If we had more running backs, you wouldn't have rushed for 200 yards in this game. Give yourself some credit. Your offensive line played really well in the pass rush, against the pass rush, but against the rush defense, it was okay. Bryce Young had 40 of your yards rushing. Those were designed pass game. So come on now. But like I said, I gave your offensive line a lot of credit. Alabama's offensive line stepped up today. They have, I think, 4 out of 5 of the starters on the offensive line are 5 stars. Are they not? So that's what happens. Talent versus talent. This is Nick Saban for you. He's the best in the business. This is what he does best. He doesn't lose to Georgia. He does not lose to Georgia. He's lost to Georgia one time in his career at Alabama, and that was in one of the craziest seasons ever. So, hey, we had 1.5 running backs. 1 Bama, 2 Cincy, 3 Georgia, 4 Michigan. Michigan is definitely going to be top 2 unless they lose. If Michigan loses tonight, then a lot of crazy things could happen. But I really think it's probably going to be 1 Bama, 2 Michigan, 3 Cincinnati, 4 Georgia. I think Georgia's going to have to play Alabama again. I don't know where Bama would want to play us. Would they want to play us in the Orange Bowl? That would not make too much sense to me because Georgia fans will travel, but it might not even matter where Georgia plays Alabama. Alabama today proven that they're just a better team than UGA. They just are. It is what it is. Just look at that. Just watch the game. Jordan Davis was pretty much a non-factor in this game. Wyatt had a couple good plays, but we didn't get any sacks in this game. Nakobe Dean had a solid game. He had a couple deflections. I think he had 3 pass deflections in this game. He almost got it. He had a couple hurries. I think he had a couple tackle for losses. But the secondary, I would say, got pretty much exposed. But man, Alabama's, especially Jamison Williams and John Mechie in particular, are insane. But Alabama's offensive line, like I said, I'm going to say this a lot, their offensive line stepped up today. But hey, 1 Michigan, 2. Now, Michigan will not be number 1 after today. Bama is a lock at number 1. So you don't even think Georgia will make it? I find it absolutely hard to believe Notre Dame would make it unless Michigan loses. Notre Dame lost their head coach. The committee already pushed them past Oklahoma State, and Oklahoma State lost. But how would you push Georgia from 1 to 5? We've seen it in the past. Last year, Clemson beat Notre Dame 34 to 3 or 10. I think Notre Dame scored 7 points at the end, so it was 34 to 10. And Notre Dame went from 2 to 4. You really think Georgia's going to go from 1 to 5? I mean, come on now. And it's not like they lost to Alabama, who has 2 losses. No, Alabama's a top 2 team. And quite frankly, I think Georgia's the second best team in the country. Listen, Georgia had a bad game for the first time this year. A lot of teams, including Alabama, have had multiple bad games. So it is what it is. Alabama played, and it all comes down to Nick Saban, but Alabama played their best game of the year. Georgia played their worst game of the year. So, but hey, you don't think Georgia deserves to be in? I don't think they will, but they should. Notre Dame, or is that Georgia? If you think Notre Dame should be in, that's incredible. Notre Dame has 0 top 25 wins. Georgia has 3. Notre Dame beats teams by an average of 23 points. Georgia before this game beats teams by an average of 33.8 points. So that would make 0 sense to me. But hey, I know a lot of people don't want to see Georgia in the playoffs, but hey, it is what it is. I think the playoffs is pretty much already set unless Michigan loses. But yeah, let's see what else. Let's see what else we got on here. I got all the stats put up on my phone here. What else? I mean, Georgia's non-existent at the run game. What was kind of an issue? 30 carries for 109 yards. Go back to last year against Alabama. It was similar fate. Georgia could not run the ball. Alabama, I think, actually outrushed Georgia last year, but they had Najee Harris. Alabama's rush game was okay at best today, but it was enough. 4.4 yards per carry. But hey, on design runs, they only rushed for 75 yards. Or 76 yards on 22 carries. So, I mean, I'm just being real here with that. But it was Bryce Young. Bryce Young and the offensive line deserved to be the player of this game. Obviously, they're going to give it to Bryce Young. He's your Heisman Trophy winner. If you don't believe that, I don't know what else to say. But that offensive line played really, really well. And Alabama's defensive line, especially Will Anderson. How many sacks did Will Anderson have in this game? Did he have 2? But it is what it is. UGA out. Why would Georgia be out? That makes no sense. Like I said, clearly the committee overranks SEC teams. The SEC is the best conference this year. I don't even think that's a debate. If you think Arkansas is overrated, fine. But Arkansas has 3 top 25 wins, if I'm not mistaken. Who else? Kentucky is 9-3. I mean, who else are you going to put into the top 25? Georgia also beat Clemson. Are we going to forget about that? Who's top 20? So Notre Dame has 0 top 25 wins. So that would not make too much sense to me. We could talk about Stetson Bennett here. Stetson Fruit Loop Bennett should not play anymore. He made the worst mistakes. He better not be to start. He's your starter. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say. He's our starter. He's the quarterback. Listen, he threw a pick six. It was 38-7. JT Daniels didn't even grab his helmet. Stetson Bennett came right back out. Stetson Bennett's the quarterback for Georgia, like it or not. And if Georgia plays Alabama again, I'd probably pick Alabama. Alabama's just a better team than Georgia with Stetson Bennett. It just is what it is. I don't know what else there is to say. He's your quarterback. He doesn't really have any pre-snap ability. His ability to read a defense is okay, but it is what it is. What else? He is mobile, but he can't really make too many plays with his arm. The receivers, I thought, played fine in this game. A couple times they were getting locked up, but Stetson Bennett was just not delivering the ball when it was needed. Georgia is not at. Georgia got blown out, though, so this committee loves Cincinnati, I'm telling you that. So I expect it to be 1 Bama, 2 Michigan, 3 Cincinnati, 4 Georgia. Unless they actually do not want a rematch, then they'll put Georgia at 3. But I really think Georgia's in. As a Dog fan, leave us out of the playoffs because beating Bama in the game was our only chance for a championship. You might be right on that. Dogs choke again. I wouldn't even consider this a choke. Alabama was just better. Georgia did go up 10-0, so I guess you can technically call it an old Georgia choke, but it wasn't really a choke. Not overrated, overranked. Low, you get no credibility bringing up committee rankings. They are a joke. Well, if they're a joke, then why do people take them for what they are, and why do they matter the most? See, they're not a joke. Unfortunately, we are given what that committee gives us. So the committee is what it is. If you don't like the committee, I don't know what else there is to say. But still, Georgia has 3 top 25 wins. If you think Notre Dame's a better team than Georgia, I'd actually be surprised about that. But Notre Dame's schedule, especially these past 6 weeks, has not been anything near as level as SEC play. So, but it is what it is. It wasn't Bennett's play. It was all Bryce Young. He's the real reason Bama will be national champs. Yeah, I gave Bryce Young a lot of credit. He's your Heisman Trophy winner. He is the best player in college football right now. He really won the award last week against Auburn when he had that historical comeback. He goes 99 or was it 99? It was 99, 98, whatever yards in a minute when it mattered most. He led Alabama to a win on the road against Auburn. That was a really impressive win. But then what he did today was unstoppable. But that defensive line for Alabama really, really did well today against his offensive line. The first quarter, Georgia dominated, but they only got 3 points out of it. So you can't beat Alabama only scoring 3 points in a quarter, and then you turn around and give up 24 points. That's where Georgia lost the game. Georgia's not a team that's going to come back from pretty much any deficit over 10 points. That's just not they're not a team built to do that. They don't have the firepower on offense like Alabama or your Ohio States or who else? Or even, your Oklahomas. That's just not Georgia for you. If they're gonna win these games, they're gonna win in the trenches, and they just didn't do that today. Kirby is suspect at best. Kirby is a really good head coach. The problem is quarterback right now, and I can't really say too much. This game, great game. Oh, hold on, great game, UGA. Yep. Shout out to Bama. Bama's the best team right now. They might even be the best team in the country this year. So, but hey, the game is on the D. Yeah, the defense did not play as well as we'd like. The play calling, I didn't really like the play calling in the second quarter. I don't know why you're only sending 4 guys when you know how well Bryce Young does when he doesn't have any pressure. Bryce Young without pressure is by far the best passing quarterback in the country. When he has pressure on him, he's a lot worse. But still, giving up 24 points in the second quarter lost you the game, especially when your offense only scored, 7? Basically 7. It just is what it is. But the defense in the second half played really well. because of Dan Lanning's play calling. If you notice, they started to bring pressure. They overloaded the left side. I don't think they had any sacks in this game. They had 0 sacks in this game. But, man, Bryce Young was putting Bama and giving Bama a lot of great opportunities, and Stetson Bennett just could not match that. Georgia at 5. That's what could happen. What's with Stetson Bennett? He was a former walk-on. He's doing everything he can. Only way Georgia gets in again, you guys really think Georgia's going to fall from 1 to 5? Notre Dame last year went from 2 to 4. That just doesn't. It's probably not going to happen. I think Georgia's probably going to be either 3 or 4 tomorrow. But I could be wrong. And hey, if Georgia's out, well, guess what? Then the committee's choosing the 4 most deserving teams. Is Georgia now one of the 4 most deserving teams? Probably not. Who are the 4 most deserving teams? Conference champions. If you want the 4 most deserving teams, you take the 4 conference champions. But if you want the 4 best teams, Georgia better be in your top 4 because they are our top 3 team. At worst, Georgia's a top 3 team. I mean, watch Georgia. See, here's the thing. Georgia's beaten teams by a combined average of 33.8 points per game from weeks 1 to weeks 13. I don't know what else there is to say. That's number 1 in the country. Point differential, Georgia was number 1 in the country. Defensively, they were number 1 in the country. Offensively, they were top 6 in the country. How is that not a top 4 team? Again, Georgia played their worst game of the year, and I said that. Bama played probably their best game of the year, or one of their best games of the year. But it does come down to one game, and Georgia played the best team that they played all year, and they came off 17 points short, and they got pretty much dominated in this game. Anyway, Bennett throwing 2 picks and not being able to score in the third when the defense held up a little, definitely wasn't the problem. I think I said that pick 6 when, what did I say? Oh, no. Georgia had 3 possessions in a row where they punted the ball. 4 after from the second quarter to the third quarter. And then they threw an interception, and then they punted. Again. Then Stetson Bennett threw an interception return to the house, and then Georgia scored again. I mean, just listen to the drives after the first quarter. It was literally punt, touchdown, end of half. Interception, downs, interception, touchdown, and then finally a touchdown, then punt, then downs, then game was over. So there you go. The offense had so many opportunities to score points in this game. They just couldn't do it. Congratulations to Alabama for winning the SEC. Yeah, congratulations, Alabama. You have the best team in the SEC this year, probably the best team in the country. Kirby Smart losing to Alabama is no shame in that. This year there is shame. I'm going to be real with you. This Georgia team from weeks 1 to coming into this week looked like the best team in the country. Alabama looked like the second or third best team in the country this year coming into this game. So I do believe there is kind of a shame in that. But Nick Saban is the GOAT. So I see what you're saying there. But this is a tough loss. This is a pretty tough loss, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm a Gators fan. Georgia's a really good team despite the loss. Saban got the best of them. Saban always does. It's hard to beat Saban. Kirby Smart's formula is not meant to beat Saban. I don't know what else there is to say on that. Let me get my water real quick. My throat's really dry. The Oklahoma State loss turns out to be a huge reason why UGA will get in the playoffs. Yeah, it could be. 1980. Yep. Hashtag 1980. Another year. Feel bad for you Georgia fans. You guys deserve better than this. I wouldn't feel bad at all. Georgia's a top 5 team every year. There's no shame in that. We all want to break the barrier and win a national title, but you're not going to win a national title playing like that. That just is what it is. Bama is great. Just face the facts. Yeah, I've said this multiple times. Bryce Young is smart, mobile, and has the best arm at his level. No shame in losing to Bama and Bryce Young. Bryce Young played the best game of his life today. He played absolutely out of his mind. He had 421 yards passing, 40 yards rushing. He had a rushing touchdown, right? I think he did. He had how many passing touchdowns? 4. So it just so hats off to him. But his offensive line really deserves a lot more credit. UGA got beat down. Yep. Now this is an overreaction. Kirby Smart and Stetson Bennett need to go. An overreaction. Kirby Smart gets you top 3 recruiting classes year in, year out. He finishes top 5 almost every year. His worst season in the past 4 years was last year when UGA won the Peach Bowl and finished top 7. How many other coaches do you know other than Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney are doing that for you in your program? And maybe even go ahead and throw in Ryan Day or Urban Meyer for Ohio State. Georgia is at worst the 3rd best program in college football right now. They just are. Georgia's not dropping out of the playoffs. Just stop that BS. I don't think they will, but the committee ceases to amaze me. Sorry, I was trolling earlier, but for real, who would you rather play, Michigan or Notre Dame? Either. I just want Georgia to make the playoffs. Whoever Georgia plays, I will obviously be rooting for UGA, but it doesn't matter to me. I don't think Notre Dame's making the playoffs. I think Georgia has a good shot against both those teams. I don't really think either team would beat UGA. 4 best by criteria conference champions are only a tiebreaker if teams are comparable. Yeah, if you want the 4 best teams, Georgia is by far one of the 4 best teams. So there's that. Just getting through the rest of these comments. Oh man, I missed a lot. My bad. I'm way behind. I see some funny ones. Georgia would win a national title if they had a coach who knew what he was doing. Good grief. Overreaction. I mean, you just played the best team in the country. Now this, Georgia, I hear this all the time, and I really, really, really have Kirby Smart's back. But it really is hard year in, year out losing games like this. Losing games exactly like this because your quarterback is not good enough or because your defense doesn't have enough gas to push you through. It's really, really, really hard in 2021 relying on defense to win you a national title against a team like Alabama whose MO is to score and score at will. And turnover and flip that as well. Alabama's defensive talent is as good as yours, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit better. But they have a really good defensive coordinator too, Golding, and they're top 15 defensively. So, but on paper, these are the 2 best teams in the country. They just are. Georgia came in scoring 40.6 points per game, giving up 6.9. Bama was scoring 42.7 points per game, giving up 19. Other teams close to that, Ohio State, I think, was close to that, scoring 45 and giving up 23 or 24. Cincinnati's stats are kind of skewed because they do not play up to the potential that they should be playing because they are in the AAC. Mark Richt was not doing this. Mark Richt was not getting to the SEC title every year. Now, in his first 6 or 7 years, he had a lot of success, just wasn't getting it done at that level. But he wasn't getting Georgia to a national championship quality every year, a quality team every year, especially his last 5 years. So Kirby Smart is better than Mark Richt. Georgia would be mediocre with Kirby. I think you mean without, but it is what it is. I missed a lot of comments. I'm trying to get through them. What's so freaking hard about developing QB talents? Fields, Daniels, Beck, Vandergriff, and Nick Stockman all going to be wasted. I don't know what it is. I really don't. Wow, Michigan's already on a 3-and-out against Iowa. This game's going to be boring. Cincinnati suck. No, Cincinnati is actually a good team. Cincinnati doesn't play the toughest schedule. In fact, they play a very lackluster schedule at best. They played 2 ranked teams this year. Their best win was at Notre Dame, which is a really good win. But still, I don't understand how the committee can put them top 3. In years past, a team like Cincinnati with that resume would probably be at number 7. So, but hey, it is what it is. Roll Tide. Hey, congratulations, Philip. You guys were the better team today. You are clearly better than Georgia, especially today. Kirby Smart has fetishes for Stetson. I don't know why. I really was surprised that JT Daniels didn't come in. 24-0 in second quarter, no timeouts. Yeah, no timeouts were used in the second quarter. That's another thing. If Kirby, watching Kirby Smart and Dan Lanning, the defense was kind of confused. If you know that your defense is kind of confused and frustrated with some of the calls and some of the alignment, then why wouldn't you call a timeout? That's another thing I didn't really talk about. But hey, but go into the third quarter and even into the fourth quarter, the defense played really. The defense 3 out of 4 quarters played really well, especially for UGA standards. I thought they played really, really well. Guys, we just played the best offensive team in the country. I knew I was kind of being biased when I made my prediction earlier. I think I said 34-13 or 27-10. I was really, really relying on Georgia's defense. You can't do that in these games against Alabama. You just can't. But Cincinnati is above. So we're going to talk about Cincinnati now. Cincinnati is above average. They aren't great, and we're very lucky. Yeah, Notre Dame made a lot of mistakes. They had 4 turnovers in that game. 3 of them were in the red zone. 3 of them were in the red zone. Just think about that. Notre Dame just left off 17 points, at least 9, but really 17 points off the board, maybe even then some against Cincinnati. But Notre Dame is not as good as advertised. Their schedule, and somebody in here earlier said Notre Dame should be in over Georgia, which would make no sense. It's all about the QB. How do you think Bama wins every time? He wins with great quarterback play. No, he wins with elite quarterback play. The years in which game managers matter are pretty much over, except Michigan if they win this game, which right now Iowa is somehow driving on Michigan as we speak. I have the TV right in front of me. But Michigan has a game manager quarterback. Cincinnati kind of, I wouldn't really consider him a game managing quarterback. That's got to be pass interference. Yeah. But Desmond Ridder manages the game well for the most part. And then you have Georgia. So you could have 3 out of 4 of the teams being Bryce Burrow, being filled, being offensive. Oh, I can't even talk. Quarterbacks being game managers for the most part. But this is a funny comment. Where did it go? Bryce Burrow showed out. Yeah. Bryce Young is really, really good. I had Baylor at 4 if Michigan loses. If Michigan loses, this is chaos. I'd bet $1,000 that JT Daniels doesn't play a snap for UGA. Or $1 million. You're right. Hey, you probably are onto something there. Notre Dame's schedule sucks, but when it's good, all I hear about is the eye test and how teams are playing in November. Indy passes the eye test and destroyed November. Notre Dame had a really good November. They played every game that they played were complete dominations. But again, if you want to make it to the playoffs, I really feel like unless you go 12-0, you should be playing a 13th game. And has Notre Dame looked like a top 4 team to you guys this year? I'm just asking a question. You can answer that. I don't know. Georgia's a great team, but over 20 years of greatness, but no national titles really hurts. Glad I'm not a Georgia fan. Yeah, you could. It's double that. It's over 40 years. Georgia has been struggling in these types of games, and it's against Alabama. Kirby Smart's kryptonite is Alabama and LSU. Georgia is not defeating Alabama because Kirby Smart doesn't know how to beat Bama. Here's the thing. I think his formula is the issue. His formula is play great defense, manage the clock, and hope that your game managing quarterback doesn't make too many mistakes. And guess what? None of that happened. For the second year in a row, none of that happened. Same exact score from last year. Was it the same exact game? Not entirely, but it was pretty similar to last year. Georgia plays really, really well in the first quarter, just like last year. Second quarter kind of gives up a bit, but this year's second quarter, they played a lot worse than last year's second quarter. But then Alabama turned it on last year. This year, Georgia's defense gave up 10 points in the second half, but of course Stetson Bennett threw a pick six. So there's that. That pick six just killed us. The first interception was bad. The turnover on downs was bad. I get it. But that pick six was terrible. That's just something you can't do. It's one of the worst reads in Stetson Bennett's career. I joked during Uncle Lou's live stream that if I were JT, I'd enter the transfer portal. I don't even know if I want to say that because I think he is too. But UGA didn't play a 13th game. They played 12 SBS and 1. I'll give them credit. What? I mean, I get what you're trying to say, but Georgia just played an SEC title game. Is Notre Dame playing a title game? No. Notre Dame is sitting at home doing nothing right now, watching these teams while they wait and hope and pray that they make it to the college football playoff. Notre Dame played one top 10 team this year. They went 0-1 against top 10 teams. Why should they make it into the playoffs? See, that doesn't make too much sense. Gives Saban a lot of credit. Oh man, Iowa missed a field goal, man. Anyway, Georgia lost. Georgia lost because Kirby Smart's game plan is just not going to beat Bama. And I want to be proven wrong. But at the same time, I want Georgia's to upgrade at quarterback. I really do. If Georgia upgraded at quarterback, things would be different. I know the game would go different if Georgia was playing JT Daniels, but man. Like I said, I give UGA credit for their schedule, but only 12 games. But they played 13 games. I know you're not counting the FCS game for whatever reason. Now, that's fine. Notre Dame has the ability to do that. They just don't because they know that they don't play a conference title game. See, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, man. I see a comment that it might actually happen. But Notre Dame does not play in a conference. So for Notre Dame to make it to the playoffs, and they're probably going to get left out this year, they have to schedule a lot of tough games. And it comes down to the athletic director in doing so. They scheduled 2 potential top 10 games this year, USC and Cincinnati. USC turned out to be terrible. In Cincinnati, they lost. North Carolina is another team that had potential to be top 10. I don't think was preseason top 10, though. No, maybe North Carolina was preseason. No, they were preseason top 10. Okay. North Carolina turned out to be terrible. USC was turned out to be terrible. Who else? Who else was on their schedule? Notre Dame's best win is Wisconsin, who's 8-4. Their second best win is Purdue, who's 8-4. Their schedule is not up to par if they want to be making a college football playoff. And here you go. Georgia did not beat a top 10 team. Georgia played Clemson. They played in SEC East. They played Kentucky. They played Arkansas. They played Auburn. All 4 of those teams were ranked in the top 10 at some point in time this year, except for Auburn. I think Auburn at best was 16th, but still, Georgia schedule is way better than Notre Dame's. It just is. Georgia is top 10 in strength of schedule. They're top 3 in strength of record. I don't know what else there is to say. They also just played a top 10 team. Okay. They won their division. Notre Dame did not play in a division. They don't play in a conference. Why would you think Notre Dame deserves to be in a playoff if they don't play in a conference? They do not play a 13th game, and they didn't even beat the best team that they played, who happened to be a group of 5 team. Okay, so I don't really understand that. That doesn't make too much sense to me. Georgia got beat down. Yep, it was complete domination. This is what it is. Alabama's offensive line dominated the game from the second quarter on. Alabama's defensive line played really, really well too. But Bryce Young is a way better quarterback than Stetson Bennett. That's just is what it is. The wide receivers played really, really well, though. Jamison Williams, his route running ability is another thing I didn't really talk about, but his route running ability is phenomenal. He's going to be at least a second-round pick. You see all those wide receivers at Ohio State, Olave and Garrett Wilson. They're probably going to be first-round wide receivers. Jamison Williams should be a first-round talent, in my opinion. He's insane. They didn't get pressure on Bryce Young like Auburn did. Yeah, and I don't know what the play calling was in the second quarter specifically. You rush 4. Hopefully you can't. But you rush 4, and you give Bryce Young all day. I think they were expecting, because of the film was showing weakness on the left side of Alabama's offensive line, I think they were expecting their guys like Nolan Smith, Trayvon Walker, Jordan Davis, Devontae Wyatt, Jalen Carter. They expected all those guys to win their battles, and you can't really go off of that. You have to bring help from the linebackers and corners and really DBs. Look what Texas A&M did. Texas A&M sacked Bryce Young 5 times. In that game, Antonio Johnson, who's the nickel or slot corner, had a sack, and he had like 3 QB pressures. Leon O'Neal, safety for Texas A&M, had a sack in that game. McCreary for Auburn had a couple pressures, and I think he had a sack last week. You had to bring pressure from the outside, and Georgia just didn't do that, especially in the first half. But again, give Bryce Young a lot of credit, because even some plays where he was pressured, he was making plays. Go back to the second quarter. I think, was it Trayvon Walker had him pretty much wrapped up for a 10-yard sack or a 5-yard loss or whichever. He spins out of that, and as he's running downfield, he laterals the ball to Brian Robertson and makes a 12-yard gain out of a 10-yard loss, which is insane. That's a plus 22-yard difference. And from then on, I was like, man, this is going to be a really, really rough game if Georgia cannot contain number 9. And they just couldn't. And Bryce Young is a Heisman Trophy winner for a reason. Quorum's going to score a touchdown Michigan. So Michigan's going to go up 7-0. I hear that every year. Well, you can only play the teams on your schedule. Never the case for Notre Dame. Well, guess what? Most of those teams that we're talking about are Cincinnati's actually do play in a conference. This is different for a team that doesn't play in a conference. You're not playing a 13th game. You're not going to get the title of conference champion. That actually means something in college football today, does it not? More than likely, what's going to happen? You're going to have an SEC conference champion. An SEC conference champion has never missed out in the playoffs. You're going to have a Big Ten conference champion. Only twice has a Big Ten conference champion not made it to the playoffs. Then you're going to have, for the first time ever, a group of 5 conference champion who happened to beat Notre Dame on the road by 11 points in the college football playoff. And then you're going to have a team that went 12-0, who looked like the best team in the country, beating teams by an average of 33.8 points per game in the playoffs over Notre Dame, who went 11-1. Like I said, Notre Dame is a good team. They are a great team. They don't play a 13th game. They played one top 10 team and lost. You said Georgia did. Okay. But you look at Georgia's strength of record. Look at Georgia's strength of schedule. Compare that to Notre Dame. Georgia has 3 top 25 wins. Notre Dame has 0. You said earlier they overrate SEC teams to, people say that every year. Look what happens in bowl games. Look what happened last year in the bowl game. Indiana, who is the second best Big Ten team, lost to Ole Miss in the Outback Bowl by 10 points? Ole Miss was the 8th best SEC team. And there's more cases of that than they are not. I'm just being real with you. So, and who cares about conferences? Are you a Notre Dame fan? That's the only there's no way anybody would ever say that unless they're a Notre Dame fan. Georgia should never be number one. Georgia was the best team for the first 13, 14 weeks of the year. Today, they were not. Alabama's the best team in the country right now. You better believe it. Bama, yeah, I heard that. Bama set the record for most number one wins. And look at Nick Saban. Nick Saban is the best coach of all time. He was, and this is how good Nick Saban is. He's only been an underdog 2 times in the past 7 years. And both of them were to Georgia. And both those times he absolutely killed Georgia. Roll Tide. Georgia will be in the playoff. The question is, what spot? I don't see them dropping lower than 3. And if we see y'all again, Kirby will definitely. I don't think he's gonna play JT Daniels. I just don't. If we play you again, you're gonna get Stetson Bennett again, and you're going to again. I can't really fathom this anymore with Georgia's quarterback play. But it is what it is. I will win their division in. I must be really far back in the comments. Conference. How is conference irrelevant? ND plays a Power 5 championship. No. Again, a conference championship is basically a tiebreaker if teams are comparable. If it means Baylor is in over and what? Listen. Conference is not irrelevant. If it was irrelevant, then why are 2 SEC teams going to make it into the playoffs? I'm just asking. So yeah, see, this made sense. You are a Notre Dame fan, which made sense to me. Why would I be talking about them if I'm not? Nothing I said was wrong or debatable. Well, you did say that conference is irrelevant. How is it irrelevant? If you are in the SEC and you win the SEC, you make it into the college football playoff 100% of the time. When you are in the Big Ten and win the Big Ten, you make it to the college football playoff 75% of the time. That the same thing goes with the ACC. Now, the ACC is down this year. This is going to be the first year in which the ACC is not going to make it to the college football playoff. So I don't understand what you are saying. But hey, all right. UGA, Bama, Ole Miss, not overranked, but others are. Most people, including SEC fans, would agree with that. With some team, listen, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Texas A&M are 22, 23, and 25. Who are you going to put there? Kentucky's a top 25 team. Texas A&M is borderline top 25 team. Arkansas is a borderline top 25 team. Who are you going to put there? Are you going to put Purdue there? Are you going to put Wisconsin there? Are you going to put Minnesota there? Minnesota lost to Bowling Green in Illinois. Wisconsin lost their 4 toughest games that they had this year. 4 out of 5. Listen, if you put Wisconsin in, that's fine. You could put them over Arkansas, Kentucky, or Texas A&M. Not all 3, though. Whichever. But I don't really think that matters. Notre Dame plays a Power 5 schedule is what I mean. But you said conference is irrelevant, which makes 0 sense. Like I said earlier, if you play in the SEC and win the SEC, you're not missing the playoffs. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Man, I'm almost out of water. If Notre Dame gets in, will be without. No, they already have their coach, Marcus Freeman, and he is a very good defensive mind. That is a pretty solid hire. Listen, he's never been a head coach before, so we'll see on that. But Marcus Freeman is a really good hire. I like Marcus Freeman. I think I'm not going to say it's an upgrade from Brian Kelly. I just don't like Brian Kelly. I don't like him personally. I don't think he's a great guy, but he's a really good football coach. But what he did at Notre Dame was really, really, really good. Just when it mattered most, he came up short. And I think Marcus Freeman's a really good hire. How many more years does Kirby Smart has as many years as he won if he continues to win 11 games? Like, I don't think Georgia fans, I'm a big Georgia fan. I love Georgia fans. I love Georgia. But some of the fans are really, really, really hard on Kirby Smart. We all won a national title. We do. Listen, Kirby Smart has to change at quarterback. He just does. But look, he went 12-0. He went 12-0. He won every game. Oh my gosh, he won by an average of 33.8 points. What more do you want? He had his worst game of the year. Georgia still has a chance at a national title. It's a complete overreaction. However, as a fan, as a fanatic, you have to take into account at what Georgia has done in the past, which has continuously come up short. But they are constantly in the playoff discussion. They're constantly top 5. So, come on. Expand the playoff, automatic locks for the Power 5 conference in 3 at large. I like the 12-team playoff idea. I think the expansion is 100% necessary. It needs to happen. People are just not sold enough on 4 teams because what the committee does with the 4 teams is different every year. Their criteria is different every year, and they rarely have the 4 best teams. If we're going based off of what we've seen on field, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, and whoever you want at number 4 are your 4 best teams. Is it Cincinnati? Is it Ohio State? Is it Notre Dame? Who else is there? It's one of those 3 teams who would be your 4th best team this year. Okay? Come on. But this year, you're probably not going to get that. You might, but it's going to be in a different order. The order that I said are your 4 best teams, or at least your 3 best teams in that order. Alabama, Georgia, and Michigan. Those are your 3 best teams. Whoever your number 4 is, I would probably say Ohio State, but I am biased because I really, really, really think Ohio State is the best, or is the 4th best team in the country. But it is what it is. If Michigan loses, who is in? Ohio State, Notre Dame. Well, Ohio State can't make it. It's probably Baylor. It's probably Baylor. Baylor. Here's another thing that people don't want to listen. Baylor's resume is absolutely insane. Baylor, listen to how well Baylor's resume is. They have 3 top 15 wins. They avenged a loss. They have a conference champion. They also beat 2 top 35 teams, Iowa State, and on the road against Kansas State. They completely dominated Kansas State and Iowa State. They beat BYU by, 15, 20 points? BYU is top 15. They beat Oklahoma by 13 points. They beat Oklahoma State and won the conference title. They are 11-2. They lost to TCU on a fluke, in a fluke game, in which Gary Bohannon had his worst game of his life, which is sad, man. If they really, the thing is, if Baylor really needs that TCU game back, but that was a fluke. But they avenged a close loss to Oklahoma State that they had earlier in the year. They avenged loss and won with a backup quarterback. So I think Baylor deserves to be in the playoffs, but they're not going to make it, sadly, because Cincinnati already won. Let's do a shot. Ole Miss, I don't think Ole Miss has a shot. I think Ole Miss gets in over Notre Dame. Nah, the committee already put Notre Dame 2 spots ahead of them, so that's not going to happen. The committee misspeaks. They aren't supposed to get the 4, but again, I don't even see I think you could be right there. I don't even know what to expect of these committees. These committees are different every year. They have 13 people in a room. They rank teams. They put them in. They rank teams based off of a different criteria that they say is kind of the same as the year before. It's crazy with what the committee does. I think this is one of the worst committees that we've ever had. A lot of people agree with me on that, but man, they love Cincinnati. They love Cincinnati. Cincinnati making the playoffs, and I think Cincinnati is a top 6 team for sure. I don't know if I could put them in the top 4, saying that they're one of the 4 best teams. But watch, hey, this has been a crazy college football season. Put them in, see what happens. They might win the national title. Who knows? Who'd you bet? I bet Georgia to win. Oh, Alabama versus Michigan is playing soon. Who would I bet? Alabama. Alabama minus 10 would probably be the line. I'll take 10. Not with that attitude. If conference championships were relevant, Baylor Baylor has 2 losses though. Baylor has 2 losses. They lost to TCU. Like I said, they did avenge their Oklahoma State loss, but they should not be ahead of Georgia. They just shouldn't. Georgia has looked like one of the best 4 teams all year. They look like the best team, but is what it is. Look at Michigan. Michigan just scored another touchdown. Michigan looks like a lock to win this game, so that is what it is. I know Notre Dame getting in top 4 seed if Michigan's going to win. I know a lot of people are hoping Michigan loses. I don't know why. I like Michigan. They finally beat Ohio State. And they finally get over that hump. And now they have a Big Ten title game against a lackluster Iowa team whose offense is the same every year. So what to expect from the committee? To be confused and a ton of contradictions. Yeah, they do this all the time. Speaking of contradictions, the committee earlier in the year told you how well and how much conference titles, how much head-to-head matters. They had Cincy over Notre Dame. They had Oregon over Ohio State. Who else they had? They had whatever they had. They had all the head-to-heads. A week after that, Michigan loses to Michigan State, or 2 weeks after that, Michigan loses to Michigan State, and then Michigan State loses to Purdue. Then they had Michigan above Michigan State, but then they still had Oregon above Ohio State, saying that Michigan's a better team than Michigan State, which I know that, you know that, but they still lost. So you're saying that on the field doesn't matter, but you are saying that it does matter between Oregon and Ohio State, which I know that Ohio State's a better team than Oregon, even though they did lose at home. But yeah, you're right on that. Michigan did a trick play, I think. I can't even see really the score. I just know that they scored. But yeah, guys, if Georgia had Bryce Young, they'd be the best team. Oh my gosh. If Georgia had Bryce Young, let's be real here, would he even be starting? Kirby Smart has pushed away a lot of 5 stars, which I don't even want to get into. Georgia loses every time I cheer for them, so I'll be cheering for Michigan in a playoff. I may be an Auburn fan, but most of my family is Georgia. So shout out to Andrew. I know Andrew. He's from the Patreon chat. As of now, who is the top 4 teams and who will get in? Who are the best 4 teams for you? Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, and I didn't know who the 4th team was. I'm going to plug in Cincinnati. Who do I think is going to be the top 4? Number 1, Alabama. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, Cincinnati. Number 4, Georgia. I don't think Georgia's getting left out. It would make probably 0 sense. Who would go ahead of Georgia? Would they really throw in Notre Dame over Georgia? Again, this committee ceases to amaze me. So, but hey, it is what it is. I'm pretty sure you can pencil in your 4-team playoff as 1, Bama, 2, Michigan, and then 3 and 4 comes down to what the committee wants. I don't know what they're going to do with 3 and 4. Georgia and Cincinnati, those are your 2 teams to pick from. Now, oh my goodness. Now, are they going to roll the dice and go with Georgia at 3? Maybe. Are they going to roll the dice and Cincinnati at 3? Maybe. The matchup works better. I would honestly want to see Alabama versus Cincinnati and Georgia versus Michigan. We'll see. Anyway, you think Alabama, Michigan, and Cincinnati and Baylor will be your 4 seed instead of Georgia. So you agree conference champions are basically a tiebreaker if teams are comparable. To an extent, like I said, I was kind of agreeing, not really agreeing with you, but I kind of did. It's different with the SEC. The SEC usually gets the best talent year in, year out. They continuously show you that with recruiting classes. They always do the best or close to the best in bowl games, even when people tell you how overrated the SEC is. So, but when it comes down to Baylor and Notre Dame, I think you have to give the edge to Baylor. I know that, this is going to sound unfair. And when it comes to Georgia, Baylor, and Notre Dame, you have to give the edge to Georgia. I'm just being real here. But anyway, and I know you're going to get mad with that because you're a Notre Dame fan. But hey, it is what it is. And Notre Dame fan, you literally faced this last year, so I don't know why you would be mad. Was Notre Dame a top 4 team last year? No. A&M probably deserved to be there. No, Oklahoma deserved to be at number 4. Notre Dame did not. They just got blown out by Clemson. So now you're telling me that Georgia doesn't deserve to be number 4 or number 3 or in the playoffs, whichever, because of what? So you'd rather see Notre Dame, which is something that I was saying last year, why Notre Dame shouldn't be in the playoffs over Texas A&M. So you kind of get a little bit of a taste of your own medicine. If Michigan wins, then Georgia in the playoffs, I don't really think it matters if Michigan wins or not. I'm just being real. I mean, really? Georgia kind of seems like people thought Georgia was a lock before this game. So I'm pretty sure Georgia is going to get in. Okay, here we go. You criticize the committee for rankings, but quote their rankings to support your point. I see that as a contradiction. But you also say that conference doesn't matter. You literally just told me conference doesn't matter. And I literally just said that when the SEC team wins the SEC, they have a 100% chance of getting in the playoffs. ACC was at 100% before this year. Big Ten was at 75%. So conference does matter. Oh, Notre Dame was the 4th best team by any metric last year. Okay, I see this. I don't know what metric you're using, but Notre Dame, if I'm mistaken, won games by an average of 12.7 points last year. Texas A&M was beating teams by about 16, 17 points. They both had a blowout loss to a top 2 team. Texas A&M had a win against they both had wins against a top 5 team. They were both pretty even, but Texas A&M played in the SEC, who dominated the bowl games, who I just said earlier, the 8th best SEC team beat the 2nd best Big Ten team in a bowl game. So I'm just being real. But anyway, guys, I don't know where they're going to put Ohio State. I think Ohio State's much better than Oklahoma State, but it is what it is. Anyway, guys, that is it. Final thoughts on this game before I get out of here. Alabama was the better team today, period. There's no discussion about it. Alabama dominated Georgia in this game. As a Georgia fan, it was hard watching this game. It was so frustrating, especially the second and third quarter. Fourth quarter, I knew the game was pretty much out of reach. When Georgia just couldn't, when Stetson Bennett threw that first interception, I knew this game was over. Then he threw that pick six, which I was so upset about. It was a terrible read. He didn't even check the line pre-snap, which is always a no-no as a quarterback. Didn't even read the safeties on the play. Just panicked and threw the ball into double coverage, and it got picked off, returned for a touchdown. But hey, Bryce Young is your Heisman. Shout out to Bryce Young. I don't know what is up with players and having Heisman moments against Georgia, but this has happened like multiple times. But Bryce Young and that offensive line for Alabama were the MVPs of this game. Bryce Young's your Heisman. Bama is your number 1 seed. Bama's the best team in the country. Bama deserved to win this game. Nick Saban is the GOAT, and that's what I'll leave you off with, guys. Hopefully Georgia makes the playoffs tomorrow. You will find out tomorrow afternoon. Will Georgia fans be happy? Will Georgia fans be sad? Will Georgia fans be sad regardless? Maybe. But as a Georgia fan, as a college football fan, as someone who's been watching college football for over 14 years, this is one of the best seasons of college football. The first year I've ever watched college football was 2007. That was probably the best year of college football that I've seen. 2011, 2010 was a good year. 2017 was a good year. This is one of the best ones, though. And I'll leave you on that. I do expect Georgia to make the playoffs. Where is it? Is it going to be 3? Is it 4? Or are they going to be left out of number 5 like they were in 2018 and 2019? We'll find out tomorrow, guys. Hey, but hats off to Bama. Hats off to Bama. You were the best team today. And you're the best team in the country right now. Who will you play? You're either going to play Cincinnati or you're going to play Georgia. Or you maybe if Michigan somehow blows this game, you might play Michigan or you might play Baylor. We'll find out tomorrow, guys. But everyone, hope you are having a good day. If you're a dog fan, a lot of disappointment, a lot of sadness, satire, whatever you got, gloominess. But it is what it is. I think Georgia will make the playoffs, as I stated multiple times. But anyway, guys, I'm getting out of here. We were on for over an hour. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you are subscribed to Mark Rogers' YouTube channel, the Georgia football channel at the Voice of College Football, and the SEC football channel at the Voice of College Football. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you in the next, whenever Georgia plays again, after Georgia plays. Peace out, guys. Have a good one. Go